Hello, ukulele friends. Do you hate bar chords? Do they bring you great pain? Well, you might be entitled to compensation. Or you could take a few moments of your time, make 2 simple corrections to technique, and learn to love them forever. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're going to play ukulele, eventually we're going to need to play bar chords, and we don't want to have to fight them in our playing. The first major mistake that I see most players make is the positioning of the finger on the fret. If you're looking at a chord chart, it would be natural to think that we just need to lay our finger down on the fret. But the reality is we want to be as close to the fret as possible. That means that we have to expend the least amount of energy pressing down the string. Musical instruments should always be as easy as possible to play. We have enough things to worry about. So instead of putting your finger directly across the fret like this, we're going to go to our 5th fret. What I want you to do is take your finger and lay it directly across the fret like this. And it's going to sound like this, which is terrible. And that's not what we want. But now I want you to watch my finger. I'm just going to roll it gently towards the nut. I'm rolling it off the fret so I can still feel the fret. And although my finger has barely looked like it's moved, here's flat and rolled. Now I'm still feeling the fret against my finger, and that means that I am as close to the fret as I can possibly be without being on top of the fret. And that means that I have to press down as little as possible to get the sound out. And that's going to help me play a clean bar chord without needing to press hard. And that brings us to our second point. You don't need to press down harder. You don't need to grip your strings harder. The reality is the ukulele strings take very, very little pressure to hold down. And we all press too hard, myself included. But when we go and play bar chords, many times we think of gripping down with our thumb. We need more grip strength to hold that down. The first thing is the proper finger position, right? That means we need to grip down less hard. But we don't need to grip down at all. If you're getting pain in here, we want to get rid of that when you play bar chords or anything on the instrument, really. When we're pressing down, the thumb is there for guidance, but what's actually holding down the strings is just the weight of our arm. If you just bring your elbow back, see how my instrument is coming a little bit into my body here. I'm actually not using my thumb at all. My thumb is completely off the neck right now because I'm just pulling the instrument towards me to hold down the strings as opposed to gripping the instrument. And this helps in another way as well, in that when we're gripping down, you'll find that if you try to move to another bar chord, you're creating all this friction on the back of the neck, and it's very hard to get to the next chord. But if you're pulling back, we have less friction and we can move. With bar chords, it takes practice. It takes time to get the muscle memory, to get the feeling of where the fret should be under our finger and how we should use our arm weight. So take a little bit of time to work with your instrument and see how you can make a bar chord work for you with the least amount of effort. There's one other thing we should talk about, and I don't say this very often in my lessons, but sometimes it's not your fault. With bar chords, sometimes it's the instrument's fault. If you feel that, especially as you get down towards the nut on the 1st fret, the bar chords are very, very hard there, there's a possibility that your nut may be too high and you're working harder than you need to. And there's a simple way to take this. Just take a business card like this and put it under your strings and slide it on up to the nut. If it stays there, your nut's fine. If it falls off, there we go. Then your nut's probably too high, needs to be brought down. It's something that a luthier can fix fairly easily and inexpensively for you. Again, you should not need to fight your instrument. But since you've stuck around this long, let's look at one other tip for movable chords. I hope you're enjoying this lesson so far. If you want to dive more into learning ukulele, click the link below for the Magic Ukulele Club and join my learning platform where we have new lessons every single week. Now, on to our last tip. Bar chords are one thing, but any movable shape up and down the neck can pose problems. But we want to think about a simple concept, which is that each of these movable shapes come from one of these open position chords that we've played a million times. Let's try a little experiment here. We're going to play, please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Only has a few chords in. We're going to play C, E7th, A7th, D7th, G7th, C. Let's play it one more time. C, E7, A7, D7th, G7th, and back to C. The thing is, all of these shapes are movable up the fingerboard. And if we want to play it in E flat, it looks like this. Same exact chord shapes, but moved up, but there's a distinct difference here. We're forced to use a different fingering. And when we first get into bar chords, it can be very hard to worry about playing the bar, as well as playing these very common shapes with a completely different fingering than we're used to. So to practice movable position chords going up the neck, you should actually practice them down here with a different fingering. Let me show you what I mean. With the C, you may have been playing with your pinky, or you may have been playing with your ring finger. I want you now to switch to your pinky regardless. Play C with the pinky, and then when we go to E7th, you were probably playing 1, 2, 3, right? Index, middle, ring. But what if we play it with the middle, the ring, and the pinky? Now, why would I do this? My first finger is not used at all, but then if I want to make this a movable shape, that G7th I was playing up here, it's just a movable position of that, and now I'm training these 3 fingers to get in that shape. So when I swap and I want to play in E flat, my fingers just need to know to put this first finger down. They already know how to make this shape, this E7th shape. Now, likewise, when we go to the A7th, try it with your middle finger instead of your first finger. The D7th, play it normal, but I want you to think about one thing. This D7th is the C7th that we play down here, barred up, just our regular old C7th. And then G7th, this is the one that always throws people because it's one of the first chords we ever learn, and we always play it middle finger, first finger, ring finger. But what if we play it ring finger, middle finger, pinky, freeing up our first finger so that as we move up the neck, our first finger is free. So let's try the same exact chord progression, but we're now going to use that fingering. So the pinky on the C. Here we go. C, that E7th, middle ring pinky, A7th with the middle finger, D7th, normal old D7th, now G7th without the first finger, and back to C. I bet most of you didn't make it to the end there because we get so married to our fingerings for chords, especially these very basic ones, that they become nearly impossible to play if we change those fingerings. Something that you can do to help your movable positions up the shape is practice a simple song that you can play with your eyes closed without any music and change the fingering so that you're not utilizing the first finger. Because then we go up the neck and play with bar chords. Our first finger is free to do whatever it needs to do to make those bar chords happen. I'll see y'all next week.